Welcome to Attention Retention with Jackie McManus, your source for the latest trends in transportation recruitment and retention.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Attention Retention. I'm your host, Jackie McManus, CEO and founder of KJ Media, a recruitment advertising agency specializing in this space. And today, we're diving deep into the world of recruitment, retention, and recognition at Ward Trucking. I'm thrilled to have two incredible guests with me today. James Ward, representing the fourth generation of the Ward family and serving as VP of Corporate Sales and Marketing, and Bob Hess, Vice President of Maintenance, Safety, and Recruiting. Bob and James, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Happy to be here.
Same. Ward Trucking was founded in 1931, over 90 years ago, by William W. Ward, and has become a prominent name in the transportation and logistics industry. With a rich history spanning over the 90 years, the company has established itself as a leading provider in transportation solutions. Its core values emphasize employee development and mutual respect within the team. Their unwavering commitment to employee satisfaction and development has resulted in an impressive 86% employee retention rate. Bravo, that is unheard of in this industry. And it's really, truly a testament of their inspiring leadership and dedication to their workforce. So before we dive into the 3 R's, recruitment, retention, and recognition, could you each share a little bit about your journeys and how you became leaders at Ward Trucking? James, let's start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. So obviously, born into the company, so I really had no choice. But that's kind of the perspective, right? Obviously, growing up, our dad was very involved, so we, had the privilege of just talking business, talking shop with him all the time. So that was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. But after college, I went to work for another trucking company, was able to cut my teeth, with that experience. And then it came to Ward in 2013. So I was brokering truckloads. So I was working in our brokerage division, which was a lot of fun, seeing kind of like the other side of it, the other side of the equation.
Sure.
Went over to our supply chain services, worked in our warehouse, led and grew our inside sales team, and then got into more like the corporate account, corporate sales function.
Amazing. Now, Bob, love to share your journey as well with the audience.
Jackie, I had a very different approach coming to Ward than James. I grew up on a farm in Western Ohio, Champaign County, Ohio. Went to college, got out of college, went to work for my best friend's father in a heavy haul application. I actually started out as a driver, where to move around heavy machinery. Did that for a while and thought that it would be a great idea for me to buy my own trucks, and I did.
Yeah.
My father and I ran a fleet of about 25 trucks from 04 to 08. The 08 recession was not kind to me. I could not weather that storm at all. I went to work for an LTL company in Dayton, Ohio, progressed through their ranks, worked for them for 7 years, and eventually moved to central Pennsylvania, lived in the Harrisburg area, and then came to Ward in 2018 as the director of line haul, and then have been tasked with more responsibilities since I've been here and eventually landed here in the maintenance, safety, and recruiting role.
Fantastic. Yeah, one thing I've learned about Ward Trucking over the last couple of months of getting to know you both is the leadership team and the dedication that really stands from the top. Folks that have had the experience, Bob, for you, for example, starting with your CDL, having your own, fleet of trucks. And we really do find that folks that have that experience really end up having a really incredible retention rate. They can relate to the drivers. So I'm really excited to dive into the 3 R's. So let's go right into recruitment. Bob, as the VP of Maintenance, Safety, and Recruiting, you're at the forefront of shaping Ward's workforce. What are the most successful approaches to attracting and retaining top talent?
Well, one of the most successful approaches to attracting and retaining the top talent, especially drivers in the industry, it involves a combination of competitive compensation, robust benefits and a strong emphasis on the work-life balance. One thing we changed with our line haul drivers over the past couple of years is they're all herd drivers. So they all get to go home every morning when they're done with their trip. That's huge.
Absolutely.
They enjoy knowing where they're going to go and be able to come home. We're finding, fostering a positive company culture that values safety, respect, and team collaboration. It significantly enhances the appeal. Utilizing digital platforms for recruitment and engaging with potential candidates through social media and job fairs, it's also a crucial role. And lastly, providing clear progression paths and continuous professional development opportunities. We have what we call our driver development program. So if we can get somebody that is a dock worker, we could train them to be a driver in 5 weeks, and we can train them to be a straight truck driver, and we can train them to be a Class A driver eventually. And that really opens up a lot of possibilities, and it helps better their life. And people can see that and find value in that for them and their families.
Absolutely, especially with the age gap from 18 to 21 to be able to drive cross country or drive cross state lines, being able to offer a role in career growth at the younger generation age and providing them the opportunity to learn more about the industry. And I think what was most impressive about you guys is that there are several different paths to take within the company. So being able to nurture and foster is something that then could be screamed on the rooftops in social media and in, reputation management, but it really comes down to the core and how you're nurturing the current staff. It is a competitive hiring landscape. And we just briefly talking about that, how do you differentiate yourself to make your company stand out as an attractive employer, especially online, especially with digital and how competitive it's become over the years? James, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, Jackie, from my perspective, I think it's about being as authentic as possible. We are who we are, and we're proud of that. And we're not the largest carrier out there, but then we're not the smallest carrier. But I think our size allows us to really engage and connect with our people. We always joke around that we are a very transparent company, almost sometimes too transparent, with our employees. But I'm okay with it because
right.
At the end of the day, we want our employees to get behind that mission, right? What we want to become and how we're going to get there. And if you're an employee at Ward, you make an impact just because of our size, right? You have an opportunity to make that impact. And I think that's so critical, just to be part of that mission at the end of the day. Listen, I'm in Pittsburgh now, and we're talking to the dock crew this morning. And if that crew has a bad morning, right, there's going to be a downstream effect. And it's going to affect, the P&D operation. So you can join this organization where it's what you do truly does matter at the end of the day. And I think that's unique and that's very special, for a company like us.
Absolutely. I want to circle back to that transparency from where you guys sit, being transparent and explaining that to the dock worker, to the P&D driver. It creates this unity. And I think that's sometimes overlooked in a lot of companies, especially companies that are multi-family generational, right? It's an old school mentality to keep things a little hush hush. And with the younger generation, we're all about transparency and learning everything about a company before applying. So the fact that Ward has had that as one of the primary missions in being transparent with their employees gives a circle of unity. And I think that's really special and really important to know.
I think it gets back all the way to 1931, when my great-grandfather started the company. You just hear stories about how it was very much a team effort. Their family home was the bunkhouse, the dispatch office. It was you hear these stories and it's just wow, that, in a way that resonates today, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what, James, let's just take a minute Can you explain the story of your great grandfather and how you told me the story at lunch one day, and I would love for you to share with the audience. It is so inspirational. It's so incredible, and please share.
Yeah, like a Cliff Notes version. I mean, similar to other legacy and family-owned companies, humble beginnings. Started with one load. It was a load of a load of eggs from Lancaster, PA, up to New York. He didn't get a backhaul, so he looked at the books and said, like, financially, this might not make sense. Right. His partner at the time convinced him to do one more load. It was a similar load of eggs up to New York City. And this time he got a backhaul. That was a backhaul of oil. So that was like really how Ward started. And we were always that Pennsylvania carrier. And then deregulation hit in 1980. And all of a sudden, our backyard was just full of competition. But like we got through that. And many great companies did it. But we got through that because I think, once again, our size. I always say we were like nimble and flexible. And really leaned on our people. And that brought us into the 90s and we kind of realized that, hey, we need to grow up. We need to like compete with some of these larger companies out there. Right. So we took on a lot of risk. We opened up a lot of new areas, closed down some other areas in our system that just didn't make sense anymore. A lot of brand new equipment. And that right there built a runway for our growth like into the 2000s and even today. So I say we have a great company, but at the end of the day, like it's not me, it's not my brother, it's not my cousins. It's about the people that work in this company. And we just have some really, really great people.
That was the first thing you said to me when we first met was about the people, and people shape each individual company, regardless of size, but being nimble, being flexible, that's really where drivers or dock workers, they want to see themselves because they can see themselves in that growth potentially. And I always say this, getting your CDL is a great way to get into the industry, but there's so many different opportunities once you enter in the trucking and logistics industry, right? You can really work your way up to be a recruiter, to be a recruiting manager, to be VP like Bob, and in recruiting, maintenance, and safety. And so if you arm yourself and partner with, as an employee, with the right company that truly believes in nurturing your career growth opportunities, you're going to soar. It really comes down to your motivation and where you want to go. And that seems like, Ward is a true testament of that for sure. Well, let's jump right over to the second R, retention. So as I mentioned earlier, shifting gears with a impressive 86% retention rate. I'm going to say that one more time. 86% retention rate by Ward Trucking, clearly excelling in retaining its workforce with the industry averages from 70 to 100%. This is really a clear indicator of how you guys retain your current workforce. And Bob, can you discuss any unique employee engagement programs or initiatives that have significantly contributed to this success?
Our retention starts out with our corporate values, our cultural beliefs. The top is one Ward. That is the charge of everyone here. We're all under the same banner. We all want to work together, transcending departments, titles, and roles. It's imperative for senior leaders to get out, boots on the ground, to all of our docks and our service centers and talk to our people. I do ride-alongs with our drivers at times because, honestly, I really miss being in a truck sometimes. It's fun. It's fun to get out there and talk to the drivers, see what they're going through. It's just great. And which brings us to our second cultural belief, which is service excellence. That's not just delivering the shipments on time. That's making sure that all of our customers, both internal and external, get what they need to do those jobs on a daily basis. And we do that through integrity. It's not just doing the right thing when people are watching. Let's do the right thing because it's the only thing worth doing. And then it leads into safety. And, a big part of our safety is wellness. We want our people to take care of themselves and be well. We have some great programs in our benefits and compensation packages where people can be well so they can come to work and be safe. And that's by providing them all the training and tools necessary to do that. We do a lot of different things. We have annual safety awards for our drivers, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. And we make a big deal out of it because you should, especially where we operate in the country. This is the heaviest traffic in the country. If you run up down the I-95, I-81 corridor, it is amazing how much the traffic has picked up over the years. I remember when I was driving and came over to Philly back in 99 the first time. It was unbelievable for a kid from Western Ohio to come up with steam.
Sure.
Yeah. And now it's exponentially worse. We do anniversary recognitions. We have so many people that have so much tenure here. It is amazing. We had a line haul driver in Pittsburgh where James is just retired after 49 years of service.
49 years?
49 years.
Whoa. That's incredible.
I was talking to, real quick, not to interrupt you, Bob. I was talking to him this morning, and he has 9 days left until he hits that 40-year mark. So we were just talking about he's going to get through the next 9 days.
9 more days after, just 40 plus years is a small feat at that point. That's incredible.
40 plus years, and he is a 30-year safe driver, which is even incredible. And he has run from Pittsburgh to Philly for the past 20 years.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
We really enjoy the anniversary recognitions. It's a time to get out there and really celebrate, and the people bring their families in, and it's hugs and tears and high fives, and it's a great time. Quarterly huddles, as James is speaking up, we go out and we tell them, you tell them what's going on. You tell them what's going on with equipment purchases. You tell them what's going on with adding facilities and real estate upgrades, because we feel it's important that they know that, because they can take pride that what they're doing is really what's allowing us to do that. It's fantastic. It's fantastic to go out and provide that transparent communication about our progress and health. They not only boost morale, but it also strengthens a sense of belonging and alignment with our goals, leading to those higher retention rates.
And just to add, we've learned throughout the 90 plus years that people like food. So we do a lot of cool cookouts.
Yes.
Bob is a pit master. So he does a really mean brisket. So occasionally he'll spend like the entire night smoking, his briskets, and then he'll go down to a service center, whether it's Winchester, Philly, whatever.
Yeah,
and do a little barbecue. So I think that's pretty cool.
I think I might need an invite for the next one, Bob.
Well, it's a shame we didn't do this a couple months earlier. We celebrated with our South Plainfield, New Jersey teammates. They passed our internal audit the first time with flying colors, and I made a commitment to everybody that she passed first time. You was a brisket cookout, and they not only like their job, but they love each other. Dave's gonna test you at the South Plainfield Service Center. Those guys will stay there for 4 or 5 hours after the music's playing, the conversations are going on, and the laughs are happening, and it's great to be around.
And I think one piece you brought up, Bob, that I absolutely loved was about the families and having these events, inviting the wives, the husbands, the kids. It is a family affair. In any profession, families are involved, of course, but especially in trucking, especially with the long hours. It is a challenging job through and through. And the support of their family is absolutely critical in their success, their mental well-being and their physical well-being. So having the family members involved with aspects and educating all on the new, being transparent and safety initiatives, new equipment, that's absolutely critical in building that like holistic work-life family. And I also really enjoyed you saying about the wellness, mentally, physically, not only is it safe with having safe tractors and safe drivers, but it does go holistically into mental wellness, physical wellness, and encouraging that as much as possible. And I feel like this year and maybe the end of last year, we're seeing more and more companies talk about the mental aspect, the wellness of the job. It is challenging. They are spending quite a bit of time by themselves on the road. And so for companies to really make that a priority on top of other safety initiatives really shows the power in what that can do in the short term and then in the long term. So those are two fantastic points. And I want to jump over to career opportunities, professional development. I'm very excited to speak in more detail about this with you guys. And it plays a crucial role in retaining top-performing employees long-term. Bob, can you share your thoughts on how Ward really approaches this aspect of retention?
We have several opportunities. We use a management training program, driver training programs, and we do mentorship with senior leaders. And those play a crucial role in retaining top-performing employees. These initiatives, they empower individuals to enhance their skills, knowledge, and competencies. It aligns their personal growth with their organizational goals. Management training programs, they prepare employees for leadership roles. The driver training programs ensure operational excellence. Most mentorship with senior leaders offers valuable insights. It fosters a culture of learning and development. Together, these opportunities, they improve the job satisfaction and engagement, and it also motivates them to commit long-term, seeing a clear path for advancement and recognition within the organization. It's awesome when somebody comes up to you and says, "What do I need to do to get to that next? What do I have? How can I drive one of those big trucks? How can I be a supervisor? How can I be a director? How can I?" And it's that motivation. It's key, and it's our job as leaders to help develop these people and make them the best versions of themselves that they can be.
Yeah, in our company, we do have a lot of people that raise their hand and they want to move up. And I think that professional development piece is so critical, like really to our future of existence, like especially in this industry. Like there's a ton of intricacies and there's a ton of skilled positions. And I know technology is going to help and it's going to automate some things, but like it's not going to automate everything. So like we're going to need like that next wave, that next generation of like highly talented and skilled individuals in our company, right? That possess those unique skill sets.
There's always going to be that human element, automation will be there. We'll see quite a bit in our lifetime, absolutely in the workforce. But, bottom line is, automation is kind of like a calculator back in the day. You use a calculator, you leverage a calculator, but someone still needs to press those buttons. And so nurturing and keeping the employees motivated, I think it's fantastic that you have folks coming up to you guys and saying, "Hey, how do I do this? How do I get there?" That shows that they're engaged from the beginning and they see the different career path opportunities. And that's trucking and logistics as a whole. I didn't come, I grew up, girl from New York City, Long Island, and I didn't grow up in the trucking industry. I was fortunate enough to work for a truck driver staffing agency at 2008, during the financial crisis. And this company happened to do phenomenally well. And that's where I learned about trucking, supply chain, and I absolutely fell in love with the industry because it's essential to the economy. And it was just one piece that wasn't taught at the younger generation. It wasn't taught in the schools in Long Island, in college. And now we're seeing more of the supply chain development come into the younger generation, which is fantastic because there are so many different opportunities within supply chain and the different verticals. So it's exciting to see companies, especially legacy, that have had, over 90 years of experience, adopt and want to encourage new folks to get into this industry. And want to gear to the third question on retention, because you guys are specialists in retention with an 86% retention rate. Maintaining that passion is critical, especially in the fast-paced world of logistics. James, what strategies have you found to be most effective in keeping employees engaged, loyal, and passionate within Ward?
I think when it comes to the driver, let's just talk about the driver for a second. It sounds so simple, but it's that continuous feedback loop and having like high consistent doses of collaboration. Like our drivers, they possess the functional knowledge, right? They have a lot of great ideas because they're out there, right? They're the face of the company. Mm-hmm. So naturally they just have a lot of great ideas and a lot of great feedback. So it's imperative that we listen to that feedback, and it's, imperative that we provide them an answer. They might not like the answer at the end of the day, it might not be what they want to hear, but I think they're going to respect it, that, hey, they're listening to us and they're following through on their end, just that high doses of collaboration and communication. And like I said, it sounds so simple, but it works, right? It definitely
Agreed. Does. It does. It is the basic, that's one thing that's always consistent within the podcast, attention retention, is that the simple, quote unquote, sometimes are the most challenging to achieve. So that communication, that feedback loop. And I agree. With drivers, we have our database of drivers, 250,000 drivers and growing, which is exciting. But the biggest reason why drivers stay with companies, it's, pay's pretty competitive across the board, apples to apples. Maybe you get a couple cents per mile here and there. But the number one reason is if they have an open door policy and have the opportunity to speak and give their feedback, whether or not it's going to change immediately, but you have that addressed by management. That really makes a difference, because there's always going to be scenarios, especially in trucking, right? But that really does move the needle and keep drivers engaged and keep them with their trucking company. We're going to go over to the third R, recognition. James, you understand the significance of recognition and employee satisfaction. How do you cultivate that culture of appreciation with your team to ensure that all employees feel valued and acknowledged?
I think, dude, in my opinion, I think when you look at like successful businesses and successful teams, it's apparent that they're all on the same page, right? Like they understand the core mission at the end of the day. They understand what's tolerated, what's not tolerated. So I think it gets back down to just those like teamwork, the principles of teamwork.
Yeah.
Like I love this industry because it's literally the ultimate team game. Like every function sets up another function in our company, and that's really cool. So I think you can just improve on that by practicing the fundamentals. And like I said, like on the last question, like listening, right? Be the best listener, and you listen to your teams and be willing to change. Like for instance, Bob talked about our cultural beliefs in the beginning of the podcast. We just changed those beliefs. We did a survey. We talked to about 100 different employees. And we want to just hey, what do you like about our current beliefs? What needs to change? What doesn't resonate? So we listened to their feedback, and in turn, we were able to, streamline our beliefs and create those four, like really guiding light principles that Bob was talking about. But we did that by listening, and we did that by being willing to change. So,
Bob, I'd be curious your thoughts on recognition and demonstrating the appreciation to make the kind of tails into the previous question, but to make their team members feel valued part of the organization. Anything stand out that is, tactful that other companies that are listening to this podcast could maybe utilize in how they recognize their employees?
You have to celebrate all things big and small. You've
Love that.
You've got to find the things that they're doing that are making you successful. We do positive coaching calls to our drivers. If we see something, if we get an alert on our camera systems and we see them avoiding an accident or, getting out of the way or seeing that thing out of the corner of your eye that most people wouldn't see and stopping something catastrophic from happening, we'll call them and say, man, that's a great job. Management isn't always the arbingers of doom. Every time you speak to somebody, you shouldn't have that churn in your stomach that you did something wrong. And
Right.
we value that. We love the fact of our open door policy, as James was talking about. One of the biggest, his great grandfather was very big on the fact that you could talk to somebody with their name on the door. That was the way in 1931. That's the way it is in 2024.
Love that.
Anybody can pick up the phone and get a hold of somebody whose name was on that truck. And that is awesome. And the family will also call people and recognize them for what they've done. They go to these celebrations. They go to these titles. And if the owners of your company come out to shake your hand and look you in the eye and say, thank you for what you do, that's unbelievable, really, in this day and age for that to happen. And it's what we do here, and that's part of the culture.
I want to just circle back to the positive coaching calls. I absolutely really admire that in so many ways, but more specifically, a lot of times there is a dynamic within a specific company where a driver, for example, is only hearing the negatives. That's when they hear from dispatch. That's when they hear from, maybe James or leadership or yourself, Bob. But there is a lot of good sometimes that goes unnoticed. So having that positive coaching call, as well as obviously there's always going to be room for improvement, I think really makes a difference. So highlighting the good and giving constructive criticism on, things to improve. I think that makes a really big difference in the overall workforce. And it's easy for companies to forget the good. It's something that, that's their job. Well, if they're showing up on time, they're showing up early every day, and they're treating your customers right and safe out on the road, that should be celebrated. And so that's a really big piece that I was happy to hear, and I haven't heard that from many other trucking companies. And it seems something that would be, instincts to celebrate the positive, but it does often go unnoticed. And so I absolutely loved that is part of your feedback loop and making the drivers feel valued as part of your organization.
Yeah, kudos, Bob. He's the one that implemented that process, and
That's part of that.
It's been awesome.
There's not many people that I know who will go to their friends and go, I just can't take it if they tell me I did a good job one more time. Even people that act like they don't want compliments, people appreciate compliments. Everyone. We're in a stressful environment and a dangerous environment every day. And we have to celebrate when we do good things, period.
We have a bottom line, the human and connected, value, and heard. And so having those as the forefront of your communication, especially with a positive feedback loop, especially with some drivers, it may seem like they don't want to get that, or they don't care, quote unquote, if they get that response. We're all humans when it comes down to it. So kudos to you. That's incredible. And I would love to see more companies adopting that policy. James, fostering a sense of community, as we know, is crucial. What are some of the best practices? I know we dove into a lot already that reward employees to create that sense of community considering the remote nature of truck driving.
Yeah, and in the LTL industry, it's a fast-paced environment, right?
Yeah.
We're always on the clock. So we don't have a lot of time with our people, right? But when we are with them, I feel like we just have to be as intentional as possible, like with our actions, and making them count, like making those interactions count. We find ways to communicate, because to your point, we're fragmented, we're scattered. So, it could be something as like a virtual communication. We have this thing called WOW TV, where we have these like huge big screen TVs at every service center, and we just put information on it. We create videos, create just like really strong material, and so the drivers and the workers, they feel like they can be connected as a whole, right? Even though we have 22 service centers, across the Mid-Atlantic up to Illinois. So that might not be the most preferred method at the end of the day, right? But it's a method, and it's something that we're always tweaking, and we're always trying new things on how we can communicate. One more thing, back in like the 50s, we started publishing the board-wide news, and it was like a company-wide newspaper.
Yes.
Yeah, so it came out, I think back then it came out like once a month, but I try to do it every quarter. But it was really cool because like you could, it hit home. Like you would, flip to the last page and you would see that, the P&D driver, his son just shot his first buck, right?
Love that. Yes.
Yeah, stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
So you're putting not only the employees, but including their family, or this driver had their first child, bought their first home. So all wins that are going on within the ward staff. Yeah,
for sure. So, it's fun stuff at the end of the day. Tough industry, but we try to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bob, we're going to kind of wrap this up. And I could list personally about 17 reasons why a employee should consider a career at Ward, but I'd love to hear it from you. The potential driver that's listening to this right now, or dock worker, why should they consider a career at Ward Trucking?
Well, we touched on it at the very beginning. We revamp our culture beliefs. We shorten it down and combine them, and it goes down to our ethos of one Ward. Unified commitment to service excellence, integrity, and safety. One Ward symbolizes our collective dedication to achieve our common goals. The teamwork, we pride ourselves in delivering unparalleled service excellence. I'm sorry, Jen. Consistently going above and beyond to meet everybody's needs, internal and external. The foundation of integrity, that we conduct business ethically, fostering trust and respect among our clients and employees. And furthermore, we prioritize safety, ensuring a secure working environment for all. Joining us means being part of that culture that values your contributions and investing in your growth on a personal level. We're doing a lot of things. We want to continue to grow. We want to, we want to upgrade our fleet. We're purchasing new tractors. We're purchasing new trailers, new forklifts. We want these people that spend most of their time at work, but with their families, to have the best that we can give them and still provide that level of service to our customers.
That's fabulous. And could you share a success story that stands out and demonstrates the potential for growth and advancement within Ward, especially for folks that are considering a career at your company?
How about I give one, and then Bob, you can give one.
Love it.
There. All right. So the one that is top of my mind, we just hired a Philadelphia P&D driver. Just hired him to become our full-time sales rep in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this guy loves driving, but he also loves like the idea of getting involved in business, right? So when I was interviewing him, we just had a lot of the same principles. We were just meshing, and I wanted to give him a chance, and he's doing a great job. But at the end of the day, he wrote, he raised his hand and he's like, listen, I want to try this. And we have a company and a culture where we're saying, yeah, we'll give you the green light to do it. So, what's it?
Book. P&P driver. Let me just circle back here. P&P driver to now sales position. That's incredible.
Yeah.
The one that sticks out the most in my mind is we had a gentleman. I'll never forget the day he started. That's why I remember it. His anniversary date is 8/8/88. He started as a casual dock worker in Baltimore, Maryland. Worked his way through. He is now the director of operations.
Was that right?
Yes. Long career, knows just about everything, and it's just amazing that you can start out as a casual dock worker.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was 18 or 19 at the time. Most of us of that age don't really know what we want to do. And he has cemented himself as someone who, quite frankly, is really helped make this company what it is today.
That's incredible. At that 18, 19-year-old age, getting the opportunity to work with Ward and you guys arming him with the tools to have him successfully grow in his career to a director level position. That's what I'm talking about. That is the proof is usually in the pudding. And those two examples really, really showcase that for drivers that are considering a new opportunity to check out Ward Trucking, whether you like to stay on the road or look at different opportunities within in-house or operations or recruiting. Ward is definitely the company to take a look at. And thank you both so much for sharing your valuable insights. And before we conclude, how can our listeners get in touch with you if they're interested in a career at Ward?
Yeah, I would go to our website. And at the top, the main toolbar at the website, we'll say careers, right? And you can look at all the CDL positions and then all the non-CDL positions.
So fantastic. And the Ward website and careers page will be in the show notes, link below. Thank you so much. A heartfelt thank you to James and Bob for sharing their expertise. And thank you for our listeners for tuning in. Remember that the road to success begins with effective recruitment, thoughtful retention, and genuine recognition. Feel free to share this knowledge with your peers and industry colleagues. Your sharing can make a difference, and together we can empower the industry to thrive. Until next time, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.